Well, hello, Lyle, and also hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first podcast of Cosmic Gossip. And Lyle or Mr. Perry, could you tell us just a little bit about yourself? I know you are a New Zealander, but now in Sweden. If I say, who are you? What are the first things coming into your mind? Yeah.
Hello, Yenong, and thank you for having me here. This feels like a real honor. That's a good question. You're right. I'm originally from New Zealand. I've lived here in Sweden for 30 years shortly. Um, I work mainly with Shiatzu treatments and massage. Live out on an island with my Swedish partner. Love being here. Nature's very important to me. Um, Not quite sure what else to say.
So healer and a nature lover, okay? And
Yes.
you have some experience that's quite unusual for me, if you will. One of the things
Okay.
you mentioned in the little conversation we had is that you can hear this pulse, or rather heartbeat
Ah,
from the earth. Could you tell
yeah,
us what that's all about?
absolutely. Well, I'll go back to the beginning on that. Um, I remember when it started, it was one evening in 1968. I was at home doing my homework with my brother, and I thought I could hear a train somewhere in the distance. And we live way out in the country. I thought, oh, okay, maybe, asked my brother, can you hear that? No, no train. Asked my parents, no, dear, we don't have trains. We're out in the country in the rainforest. I thought, okay, but it was still there. Um, there is a port, maybe 20 kilometers from where we were, but there was a range of hills in between. So I thought, well, it can't be the port. So I sort of backed off then, I didn't really talk about it much more because obviously the looks from my family were like, oh yes, what's happening here? So it continued always. It was just always there in the background. And it's more of a vibration than a sound. It can kind of feel it in the diaphragm as much as in the ears. And it's sort of like a low frequency rumbling, like brum, 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 this sort of sound. And eventually I left home and went to university and then moved to Auckland, the largest city in New Zealand. And it was just always there. But I kind of pushed it down because I got tired of people telling me that I had tinnitus or my ears were not good. I did have them checked, by the way, and nothing wrong with my hearing.
Okay. When you first hear it, how old were you?
I think I was 14, maybe 15,
14 years
somewhere,
old. Okay.
somewhere
And
around
in
there.
your family, what's most special about you? Well, I know all the other people couldn't hear. We do know in Chinese history, for instance, there are people who can hear beyond the normal range or see beyond the normal range. We have words for them. But what's special about you that stands out that made you able to hear this deep sound from the universe?
Thank you. I'm not sure that I'm so different from the rest of my family, but well, in that case, I am. Um, I've always had a deep connection with the planet, with nature. That's a very deep part of me. But as time has gone on, I discovered that this sound has a name. Well, I actually found out when Google came, and I Googled it, and the noise is called, or some people call it the hum. And with that, I learned that 4% of people can hear it. And unfortunately, it's not always helpful. It has caused people to take suicide in various places because it's hard to shut it off. It's always there.
Hmm.
But
So there
just
are about
going,
4% of the people who seem to have a different kind of a connection with the earth. that they can feel this deep rumbling sound, which now you knew it was the Schumann hertz or Schumann
Yes, resonance. Yes.
resonance. Okay.
I also learned that from Google. I'm very grateful to Google for this info.
The
And
source of wisdom and knowledge, huh?
yes, and very much.
Uh,
And in that process, I learned that it's also called Gaia's heartbeat or the Earth's heartbeat.
okay.
Um, it is fascinating, this sound. I have learned over the years that if it gets very loud, it's usually before a large earthquake somewhere on the planet. And then
Oh,
after
really?
the earthquake, it's very, very low sound.
Okay.
So
Some
there's,
some like the steam got released, the en pended
yeah,
up energy got released.
I,
Okay.
I, I
Because
feel
that
that, yeah.
Yeah, it's
That,
interesting because two things comes to mind immediately. One is you feel it in your belly, so what we call
mhm,
the lower dantian. So for
that's right.
you, that resonance really to the core, that's our central core, which is Earth, right?
That's
But
yeah.
maybe if it you hear it in your head, that can drive you crazy. But hearing it in your belly, in your dantian, probably is constantly toning you and nurturing you in a sense.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, then you did describe one day that sound suddenly stopped for a few days. Tell us
That's
what's
right.
that about?
Yes, I'll get to that. I just want to say I'm hearing it and feeling it as we talk too right now. It's
Mm,
always there. Yeah. 18th of December, 2025, it was just gone. I mean, and that's the first time since 1968 it hasn't been there. And that was, yeah, it was quite disturbing. It was several days, maybe even a week, something like that. It was just silent. But then
mm,
what happened was there came a new sound, a new frequency, which
really?
was I perceived it as a much higher frequency. It sounded a bit like metal scraping. It wasn't a very pleasant sound, but definitely you could tell it had a higher frequency to it. And then that kind of came and went, and now it's a combination. What I'm hearing right now is the original sound, more the Schumann resonance, but the new one is sort of there in the background a little, and that varies from day to day. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Because a lot of the so-called prophets or energy intuitive people, they are all talking about that the Earth's vibration is changing or raising up, and
Yes.
then the human's consciousness need to raise up with it. So we're
Yes.
actually standing in this very interesting time, transitional time, if you will. And given that, relationship with the earth that you can hear it. What do you think about those sayings that we are actually going through
Mm.
elevation of the consciousness or
Oh,
changing of the vibration of earth?
I think that's critical to the experience we're talking about, but also what we as humans are going through right now too. My mother was a very keen astrologer, and I grew up knowing that we were about to shift into the Aquarian Age, which we now are truly in. But it seems that that point, the 18th of December, around there, from astrological side, was kind of the point where now we're right in it. That was the kind of
Mm,
kick over point.
mm,
And a parallel with that, I have learned and always felt too that we're moving, you could say, from third dimension consciousness to fifth dimension right
mm.
now too. And I'm really sure that what I heard was you could say the arrival of the fifth dimension in a way. It was a higher frequency that wasn't there before. I never ever for a moment thought it would be something that would happen bang like that and we're there kind of thing. I thought it'd be a long process, maybe take lifetimes, but no, there it was. Boop, boop. Okay, let's get on with it feeling.
Okay, so that description of there's still the deep Schumann's resonance there, but then there's a higher pitch or frequency coming in,
Yes,
and the two are together. Do you think it's
yes,
might be we need a little bit time for the new frequency to take hold and become the normal pattern?
yes, I
How do you?
do. Yes. And I've actually discussed this with AI, and I didn't get anything very concrete, but it's just that if we just had the new frequency, really that the rest of the planet is not designed to cope with that. So we need to have both now
Oh,
as a
okay.
transition. Um,
Okay.
and I actually checked out the frequency of the new energy, and it's 86.2 hertz compared
Wow.
to 7.83 of the
7.8. That's a
it's a
huge
huge
difference.
difference. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
But
So I'm
but
guessing in that transition, a lot of us will feel out of sorts because that disconsonant of the vibration there. And then two, we may be not used to this higher
yeah,
frequency yet. Right. Okay. All right.
I
Then for that, I want to follow up with a question. Since
yeah.
this deep bond with the earth, if you will, and does that prompt you to do a lot of work on the planet? Field
Yes, thank
work or
that's a good
conversation with
question.
it, if you.
Yes, I've never thought of that consciously before, and thank you.
Mhm.
But I mean that I've always felt like um a forest troll or a nature being. Yeah.
Mm.
So yes, it does. Thank you. It very much does. Yeah. And I know a few people that can also hear it, and they are very, very strongly connected to nature and earth too. But I hadn't made that connection before you mentioned it.
All right. Well, I just want to ask a human question. Since you're the very few among maybe less than 4% who can hear that, how do people around you respond to it when you or what if you choose to share that story or experience?
Well, the times I have shared it earlier, mainly it's met with suspicion and oh yeah, is get your ears checked, mate. Like
Okay. Something wrong with you. Okay.
yeah. So that's fair enough. I mean, I really would probably say the same if I couldn't hear it, but um, so that I don't mind. It doesn't bother me. But then when this happened in December, I actually put a thing out on Facebook, and explained the past story that I've explained to you, and then and what has happened now, and what I believe it is that the arrival of fifth dimension energy, at all Aquarian Age, same thing for me. And I got a really interesting response then. I even discovered we have neighbors that have heard it always and didn't think about it. It was just there. And several other people in my family and friends that gave a similar response. Um, but definitely a big interest in the actual happening of the shift in the energies.
You're right. It's since probably 2023, 2024, there are more and more actually voices, even just on web, even conversation with AI like you did, and they're really talking about this transitioning of the
Yes.
planet
Mm.
dimension, if you will, and it seemed to be a quickening of it. So more and more voices are
Mm.
heard, right? Before maybe very few and far between. And in the distance, you hear some of these people who are so-called channeling energy
Mm.
people who will talk about it. But now it's quite prevalent. So
Yes, yes.
hopefully more people when you start talking about it, and those who didn't know what it is will now realize what they are hearing. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And for that, we know, we're in a history of a great moment. Some people call it the Great Division. And
Mm.
you mentioned that word too. So describe what do you mean by it? the great
Well,
divide and special moment.
it's not a term that I made up myself. It's one that I mean I've read about through a lot of different prophets. You know what we can expect. You know, I'm always curious to know what there is, and there are several recent and older prophets that have described this time right now as the Great Divide. What I didn't really know what it meant, except one lady gave a good description, Dolores Cannon, who died just recently, well, 2014, and she described it that it is a very intense energy we come into now with fifth dimension, and really it's up to us if we it'll magnify whatever we focus on. So if we want to focus on growing and making a better planet and evolving well, that'll happen quickly. But if we don't, wherever we put our attention, that's going to happen too. So that's my interpretation of the Great Divide. It's not a physical divide, but that humanity maybe goes in two directions for a while.
Mm,
Um,
mm, mm. Is it
and
also possibly a great divide of the consciousness, which, as you say, we used to focus on, for instance, science and technology, or in other words, in the extreme way, how to conquer nature, squeeze all the resources out of it for the human
yes,
comfort and possession. But
yes,
now that transition of a higher dimension, if you will. So we need to focus on something else because that's being much discussed as well.
yes. What you hit on here to me is really the essence of what we will be talking about today too, and that is having balance of head and heart, or intellect, compassion. And I feel that we really have got very out of balance with just that these last maybe 200 years, maybe a little more, and to the point where it's make or break as I see it now. It's not a luxury we can't stay here with this exploiting of the planet, the greed, the wars. It's not going to end well. We need to come back to the middle point to balance.
Oh, okay. So you're saying we're really out of balance in the last hundred or couple of hundred years, and we move more and more from a heart and head balance to probably a head centered or head strong, if you will.
Yes.
Okay. And that transition, how do we prepare for it? How do we consciously going into it?
Oh, that's a really good point.
Or go with it, if you will, rather than resisting and denying.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, to start with, I, I see it as a natural state to be in balance. We're born that way, and over time, things take us from it. Maybe fears, expectations of society or family, um, and that thinking that we have to live a certain way and push aside our own desires, what our own heart is telling us to do. And I know it's something we all do. I sure have. I'm still working on that now. A long way from being in total balance. So that's really the starting point, is to see, okay, why aren't we living like that? What's holding us back? And if there's some fear of survival or fear of being not liked or something, that we need to deal with those, and on the intellectual level. But then there's the other side of things we can do too, is just like be in nature.
Mm,
That brings us back to heart instantly. Meditate, be calm. My thing is sitting in stillness.
mm.
I have a little autistic streak in me, which makes me hyperactive. And so this has been great medicine, just sitting still.
Sitting still. Yeah. Not easy, isn't it?
Not at this day and age. I call the other side of it this crazy pace that we live at. Um, we call it the TikTok syndrome.
Mm,
Everyone's moving so fast that I have difficulty hearing what people are saying these days, because they don't say whole words. It sort of sounds to me like
Everybody is hyperactive. Yeah.
yeah,
You hit a few very interesting things. One is this imbalance between heart and head. And in other words, the Taoists also say it's the shishan, it's the intellect. We usually spend so much of our early education and adult life to sharpen your intellect in order to acquire a lot of knowledge that may be useful to survive this physical world or even thrive. And seems like the head really is the tool. But the heart or the soul, if you will, we call it 元神. That's your original spirit, okay? And that one actually really want to know how to be in the Tao again, how to be connected to the mother field again, to feel that content, balance, or bliss, if you will, just being a human. And then you did also hit it on the head that only when you quiet down your head that you are able to be connected with nature, to feel that peace and joy in a sense. All right.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And I think what we're talking about here is Wu Wei too, effortless doing, being like water. That
So
to me
instead
is
of human doing, we need to come back to be human being.
yes.
Okay. All right. And if you describe your day, what will be a perfect balanced day that you are in harmony?
In my own day,
Mhm.
oh wow. Well, one thing that we have learned a lot about through Bisong is the Shi clock and wonderful techniques that Bisong has developed for us 4 times for health. And this is helping us to know what the needs of the body are and when and through the day, and then what actions we take to then reduce stress or minimize stress happening. For example, we really should not be working more than 6 hours a day at very specific times between 9 and 11 and 1 and 5. And as best as I can, I follow this routine when we sleep, when we eat, rest, etc. And that really has given me a very strong foundation for keeping a natural harmony.
I see. So this is the old Chinese wisdom in the saying, 4时 meaning 子午卯酉, the midday, noontime,
Yeah.
midnight. Usually that's the meditating time because the yang energy is rising. And
Yes.
卯酉, I think it's 5 or 7 or 7 to 9, morning and evening. So those are prime time to regenerate and or get your creative juice going.
Mm.
So those going with the rhythm of the time is actually set your own being to not just run into
Mm.
extremely tension or stressed state until you break, but rather we very wisely know how to go with the tide and also how to set a rhythm of
Yes.
working and resting, of being in this go-go mood and then peaceful mood. All right.
It,
Okay.
it, in
Well,
when I lived in New Zealand, I used to love to surf. I was not very good at it, but I loved trying. I call this cosmic surfing. It's like
it's a
riding.
cosmic surfing. You need to go with the
Yeah.
waves, up and downs. Okay. Now, are you teaching anyone or helping anyone to go through this transition? In other words, any projects, any lessons, any retreats, anything that you're doing and organizing that would help our fellow human beings?
Yes. Well, yes, absolutely. Um, we started, when I say we, I'm talking about Shin Foundation, and Brigitte and I heading that up a lot. We started in in January this year a new project, and it is called Project Deep Peace.
Project
Um,
Deep Peace. Okay.
yes,
Uh-huh.
and this was a channel message from some of the guided teachers that support us with Shin Foundation. And it has a very specific purpose, and it is really related to what we're talking about, to come back to balance of head and heart. And within Project Deep Peace, we have three projects inside it, if you like.
Three components within
Three
this deep
components.
peace.
That's the word. Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
The first one is we call it B1 at one.
Mm.
And physically, what it is, we're suggesting or we'd like to get people to sit for 5 minutes a day in complete stillness between the hours of 11 and 1 during the day.
Okay.
And in that time, just to sit still and be, not to try to do anything or try to create peace or calm, whatever, but just sit down and
Just sit
be.
still. Just sit still. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then I want to just talk about the background to that. In the 1970s and 80s, Transcendental Meditation did a whole series of experiments. Their most famous one, where you are in Washington, D.C.,
Mhm.
where they got groups of people to sit and meditate for a certain length of time. And I think the period was for a month. And within that time, they could show that the crime rate would drop significantly. And from memory, they did 59 different experiments, and it worked every time. Um,
Wow.
and if anyone listening would like to know more statistically about that, if you Google the Maharishi effect, all the information is there about facts and figures, which I don't have in my head, but that's the background to what we're doing. Um, and so, like, the tipping point is 2% of population for a town or whatever area they were working with. So 2% of the world population is 166 million people. So what we're focusing on is inspiring 2% to just do that. Sit in stillness for 5 minutes a day. And the collective energy of that, you know, I feel can really raise the consciousness of the planet to the point where the energy that creates wars and disharmony and the greed that happens when we get stuck in the head will dissolve because that energy really needs fear and division to feed it. But if we're all just sitting here being loving and still, it doesn't get any food. So,
Okay. So B1, we want to be in this oneness at one. So it's
yeah,
11 to 1 o'clock, which is the heart hour according to
heart
Chinese
out. That's
medicine.
right. Yeah.
Okay. And then when that heart energy is connected, we create a field that probably can do something. All right. Is that
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
saying? Now, do you have any information that people, our audience, can go check? You said the Shen Foundation, Shen.
Yes.
So if they go to visit the website, will they see something about how
Yes.
they can join you or they start their own
Yes.
meditation? Okay.
Well, we can do it on our own too, but it's good to do it together collectively. It's always stronger.
Okay.
And
It would be
we
great if different countries they'll have a little group of people and then they all decided on the same time.
absolutely. Yes,
Okay.
yes,
All
yes.
right.
So
All
what,
right.
what they will see is, by the way, Brigitte and I are still researching the best way to create this 166 million people. We're
Mm,
not there yet, but what we've done so far is we have on a Xian Foundation YouTube channel at 11 o'clock. We have, well, not see all the time, a video where you can be guided through this by Brigitte.
I
So
see. I see.
just if people just want to feel connected, you can do that.
Okay.
However,
So
we
that's
will,
the one component of your three
yes,
components. What's the other two of the project
yeah.
P
Okay,
orientation?
that's the main one for reaching the millions. But
Okay.
then for those that want to have a deeper understanding of deep inner peace and the balance between head and heart, we've started a 12-week long course um, called Inner Sanctuary. And we're just about to complete
Oh,
our
inner sanctuary, sanctuary inside. Okay.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
Mm, we're just about to complete the first run through of
Okay.
this course. And the again, the aim is to help people maintain or recreate the balance of head and heart. And we do this with two main techniques. One is we've already named sitting in stillness, and it doesn't have to be 5 minutes. You can sit all day if you choose to, but I think we all can spare 5 minutes. That's why we mentioned it.
That's where we start. Yeah.
Yes. And the second one is open heart meditation, where we learn to really bring our consciousness down into the body, into the heart, um, and help us to recreate the natural balance that we really should have. I want to say it's really relearning or letting go of things more than creating something new, because this is natural for us to be like this.
All
And
right.
also in the process, we look at what it is that is taking us away from this natural balance. And I already named them a little bit earlier, looking at maybe fears that hold us back, expectations. And we have a little technique called mirror image to help with that, where we look at how we react to the world around us. If we meet someone that really upsets us and makes us angry and say, "Oh, that person is so mean and greed, and they don't think of anyone else," then we had to look back at ourselves and say, "Okay, what's in here, Lyle? What greed do you have to look at, or whatever it is, just how the world reflects us around. It's a very important lesson, I feel.
All right. So this 12-week, it's about just a shy of 100 days, is to help the heart to open, to build that inner sanctuary, and then
Yes,
to let this new pattern take hold. It takes about that long to build a new habit. So what's
that's
the
right.
third component? Yeah. What's the third component of your deep peace?
Yep. Then we also look at gratitude as a really powerful way to be back in balance with ourselves and not come into victim mentality, which is so easy to fall into if we're out of balance, where we feel we don't have control or power over our own life. Maybe get sucked into feeling sorry for ourselves and not really seeing life as it is. So that's another really powerful tool we use. And learning um, unconditional love and why we don't just stay in that state all the time. What stops us from that? Which is often being judgmental, um, etc., etc. And then the other thing we look at is two of the five virtues from Taoism. We look at altruism, which is giving without expecting, or selfless giving. That's a better way of saying it. And
Mhm.
integrity, doing the right thing for ourselves, for our family, for the planet. And putting all those elements together creates just a really good stable base for life. So we can then have it like our inner sanctuary, which is really just being in the heart to look out at the world from. And if we sit and practice these exercises, in a daily way, physically, then eventually we're going to take that deep inner calm with us out into the very noisy world and hopefully maintain that balance. So that's a very long sentence to describe
All right.
in a
Well, you got
century.
three very important components there to do the inner work. So let's wrap it up. This is our very first episode of the Cosmic Gossiping. We call it gossip because a very few of us can hear, sense this great change, or where the human being or humanity is really at a great divide. Whether we continue our way and not really knowing how to adapt to the new dimension or the new rays of the consciousness, but also this great divide is also helping us to realize maybe there's a rebalancing or the balancing of the heart and the head
Mm.
again. And with us today is Lyell Parry, a nature lover from New Zealand, but now residing in Sweden. But also, he's a Shiatzu healer and also someone who can always hear the Gaya's heartbeat from 14, 16, 14 years old. And
Yeah.
so thank you so much for this very exhilarating ride. So until next time, we'll gossip again. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.